A long time ago, in a quiet village called Umueka, hidden between tall palm trees and wide rivers, the people lived in peace. They farmed during the day, sang at night, and always respected the gods of the land. But there was one thing they were told never to do. It was called Ijuogu, the forbidden ritual. The elders said, no one must ever try Ijuogu, not even the bravest hunter or the wisest priest. They said the ritual could wake something old, something angry. Now, in Umueka, there was a young man named Obina. He was strong, he was curious, and he always asked too many questions. Why can't we do Ijuogu? He asked one evening. The elders frowned. Because it brings destruction, one old man said. The last time someone tried it, our rivers dried, and the trees stopped growing. But Obina didn't believe them. He thought it was just stories to scare children. One night, during the new moon when the sky was dark and quiet, Obina sneaked into the old shrine in the forest. It was a place no one entered. The trees there were tall and crooked. Even the birds refused to sing near. Inside the shrine, Obina found the items for the ritual, a black calabash, red cloth, and a drum made of skin. He thought to himself, I will do the ritual. I will prove the elders wrong. So, he lit a fire, tied the red cloth around his arm, and beat the drum 3 times. Dum, dum, dum. Then, silence. Suddenly, the ground shook, the wind stopped blowing, the fire turned blue, and a loud cry came from deep inside the forest. Something had woken up. Back in the village, animals ran, goats screamed, and old women shouted, Ijuogu. Somebody has done it. The sky turned dark, even though it was still morning. Children cried. The stream where they fetched water turned to blood. Crops began to die, and the sun refused to shine. The elders gathered and called the gods, but the gods were silent. They knew what had happened. Obina had opened a door that was never meant to be opened, and now, something was coming through. The elders gathered at the village square. Their faces were heavy like yam during harvest. The oldest among them, Ponana, stood with his walking stick shaking in his hand. He said, Ijuogu has been done. The spirit of the forest, Agbana, has been awakened. This is not a punishment. This is war. The villagers were afraid. Mama, what's happening? Small Ada asked her mother, holding tight to her wrapper. Her mother didn't answer. She only hugged her close. Meanwhile, Obina, still in the forest, began to feel cold. Not the kind of cold from rain. It was the kind that touched your bones and whispered your name. He turned around. Something was watching him. A tall figure with no face, only eyes, red like hot pepper, and long fingers like the branches of a dead tree. Obina, the spirit said, though its mouth never moved, you have called me. Now, I will take what is mine. Obina wanted to run, but his legs refused. He tried to shout, but his voice disappeared like smoke in harmattan. The spirit stretched its hand, and Obina fell to the ground. His shadow rose from his body and followed the spirit into the dark trees. In the village, the people saw Obina running back, but it wasn't really him. He looked the same, but his eyes were empty. No blinking, no soul. The dogs barked and ran away from him. Children hid. Even the brave hunters held their charms tight. Honana stood in front of him. Obina, what have you done? But Obina said nothing. He only looked at the elder and then smiled, a smile that did not belong to a human. Then the wind started again, but this time, it wasn't wind, it was laughter. Laughter from the trees, from the soil, from the sky. The spirit had entered Umueka, and it was not living. That night, no one slept in Umueka. The moon refused to shine. The firewood would not catch flame. Even the crickets stopped singing. The people gathered in the square again. This time, not to talk, but to pray. They poured palm wine on the ground. They beat the sacred drum of peace. They called the names of their ancestors, but the land stayed silent. Then Ponana stood up again. His voice was low, but strong, like thunder firewood. There is only one way, he said. The river maiden, Moni Miri. She lives beyond the 7 hills, across the crying forest. Only she can speak to Agbana, but the journey is death. Everyone looked around, afraid. Then a small voice said, I will go. It was Ada, the same little girl who had held her mother earlier. Her mother screamed, no. She is just a child. But Ada stepped forward. The spirit came because someone was stubborn. Maybe a child's heart has broken. The villagers were silent. Even Obina, or whatever was inside him, turned his head slowly toward her. So, before dawn, they gave Ada 3 things, a calabash of honey to calm spirits, a white feather to show she came in peace, and a small bell to remind her of home. She set off alone. The crying forest was dark and wet. The trees wept like widows. Sometimes they moved when she wasn't looking. Sometimes they whispered her name, Ada. Ada turned back, but she held the bell and kept walking. She crossed rivers that flowed backwards. She met a talking tortoise who warned her, "The spirit does not forget, it does not forgive." Still, she walked on. At the seventh hill, she met Mwani Miri, the river maiden. She had long hair like flowing water, and eyes that sparkled like the night sky. "You are brave," the maiden said, "but bravery is not enough. To stop Agbana, you must give something greater than what was taken." Ada asked, "What did he take?" The maiden looked into her eyes. "Hope," she said. "The spirit took the heart of your village, its joy, its laughter, its future." Then she touched Ada's forehead. A bright light filled the forest, and Ada began to float. The light grew brighter, so bright that even Agbana, the dark spirit, felt it deep in the roots of the earth. Back in Umueka, the wind stopped. The sky slowly cleared, and Obina, or the thing inside him, screamed a scream that cracked walls and shook trees. He dropped to his knees as smoke poured from his mouth and eyes. Then, silence. The villagers rushed out of their huts. Children peeked through cracks. Even the goats stopped trembling. In the forest, Ada's feet touched the ground again. But she was not the same. She had given something. The river maiden had taken her laughter, her childhood joy, and her dreams, the things that made her a child. In return, she was given a gift, peace for her people. She walked back to Umueka slowly, quietly, her bell now silent. The calabash was empty. The feather had turned gold. When she returned, the crops began to grow again. The stream flowed with sweet water. The birds sang louder than ever. But Ada did not play like before. She now sat with the elders, though she was still small. She spoke little, but when she did, even the wind listened. Obina awoke with tears in his eyes. "Forgive me," he said. "I was blind." The people forgave him, but they never forgot. And from that day on, the elders told every child the story of Ijuogu, not to scare them, but to remind them. Some doors must never be opened, and some hearts, like Ada's, carry the strength of a whole village. And that, my children, the storyteller says, is how one little girl saved Umueka, not with power, but with courage.